This quick and dirty video is intended for use with the Business Statistics repository to show you how to build an assignment. It also includes a little bit of my philosophy on how I pick questions for an assignment. Start by going into your course, and we're going to scroll down to Course Tools and then Assignment Manager. When I build my assignments, I actually build my tests first, my quizzes second, my homework's third, and my in-class assignments fourth. My in-class assignments are the easiest. My homeworks are the next easiest. Quizzes are the hardest, and test questions are the second hardest questions according to my estimation. So I've already gone through usually and reviewed a lot of the questions that are available by going into the study plan manager, and so I have a feel for what I'm looking for, and I'll get into specifics then when I start building an assignment. Now, when I build a test, I usually call it test, then number, and then the chapters involved. This is to assist students in knowing the order of the tests and the information on the tests so that when they see it in their calendar or among their assignments, they have an idea of what's going on. And we click next. And imagine, so we're in BusStat 207 for chapters 1 and 2. So I'll go into chapter 1, and then for objectives, let's say I think population samples and sampling techniques is the best representation from chapter 1 that I want to cover. Of course, I can cover more sections than that, but let's imagine that I consider 1.3 the most important to cover first. And then for objectives, I want to focus on apply knowledge of sampling methods. I think these other two are important, but I'll reserve those maybe for homeworks and in-class assignments. And for testing, I'll want to make sure they know how to apply knowledge of sampling methods. All of these questions here fit that objective, and you notice as I hover, I get a preview that's hard to read, but gives me a basic idea of the question. So then I click on, say, the first question. Again, usually I've previewed these in the study plan already, so I have an idea of what I'm looking for, and I'm looking for, say, multiple choice questions that test them on types of sampling. So I like this question, and so I'm going to click add, and I think that's great, and I'm going to go through and look at each one of these and say, well, they're good questions, but they're only one multiple choice, and for a test I want multiple choice. So here's another good one. I'm going to click add, and you notice when I click add, it moves on. This one only has 2 questions, but it's got a lot of detail that you need to read into. So I'm going to click add, and this one, maybe I'll consider it. And next, nothing happens because I've reached preview item 8 of 8. As I was going through this, you may have seen here under difficulty, it gives me an idea of how difficult it is. That's what this icon here with a column bar, column chart right here. You can also see the median time for students took 50 seconds. Correct on first try is 59.2%. This bar graph here is also, column graph is also available on the previous one. So I'm going to close this, and you can see on the left hand side here that same information I was just showing you when you hover, right? And you'll notice I picked they're all under difficulty of hard. That's the next thing I usually look for when I'm looking at this group of questions. So I'm thinking these are good questions, but of course I don't want to give them all 3. So let's say I consider the first one the best. I'm going to keep 1.36 and 1.38 in mind for something else I want to show you, but I'm going to remove those because let's say that's the question I really want to give them on the test. Now the other thing I want to show you is the option. Oh, what was that? Great, I forgot what the first, was it this one? Yes, okay. So I'll just close that. All right, so 1.3.25, 1.3.36, and 3.8 were the 3 I was interested in. I'm going to click the check marks to activate those 3, click pool. Now their first question will be one of these three and gives the students randomly selected one of those three. So now you have not only scrambling of data for among students as they take the test, you can actually have them be given different questions for this. They're all the same hardness, which is one of the things I look for in pooling, and so I would consider that for my first question. Then moving on to say chapter 2 for a quick, and I want to test them on frequency distributions. I consider, say, that the most important section in chapter 2. And I'm thinking I'm going to go with the first objective. Again, I can look through the questions and say, yeah, that's a good in-class question. Again, not something I want to really test them for. That could be a good one. Okay, so I clicked on the icon to see the data. And next. Ooh, I like this one. And this is item 5 of 5. So this last one, I like this one for test questions. So I'm going to click add and click the X for close. So now I've got 2 questions in. And of course, I would then probably actually add other sections because that's only 2 questions for a test. I tend to shoot for about a fourth of the time available in class for the total of the estimated time. So I take the highest time here, 2 minutes 22, add it to the 11 minutes 8 seconds. That's about 13 minutes and 30 seconds. So I probably add as much as 7 minutes more of questions. That's kind of the gauge I use. I click next when I'm all done. If I'm in an instructor course, I'm probably going to leave the due date blank because I don't really care to set the due date in the instructor course. It's going to be copied over and over and over again. The disadvantage of that is you can't then activate the late submissions. I always set the late submissions and always set it for all of my assignments to require final submission on the last day of class so that the students can't go beyond the last day of class. And I also tend to submit a late submission of a penalty of 5% per day, which you can set right here. Oh, there's no due date, so I can't set it. I always require a password for my assignments, so I would usually do something like variance and then a number, 4-digit number, and I change that number then from semester to semester. I'm going to click limit temps to 1. Oops, accidentally activated my keeper. Sorry about that. It's my password keeper. Students do not have a save for later option in tests. They have to complete it in one session, so the next button is clicked. Because there might be a network hiccup that might, say, kick 6 or 7 students off of a test and then makes more work for me, I tend to leave this top button clicked where it says if it's interrupted, allow them to re-access and complete on their own. Otherwise, if it's interrupted, you have to go in for each student and restore their access. Test time, I'm going to click that on. I usually limit it to 5 minutes over the length of the test. I'm usually to class early to make sure that my password is up on the overhead projectors so that as soon as students get in, they can put it, you can work on it. And so I give them, say, most of my classes are 75 minutes. I give them 80 minutes. I usually click on show time remaining during test. I don't scramble the questions and because it doesn't really make a difference to me, but you have that option. For learning aids, unless you filled in the instructor tip, that won't help them. I do tend to turn on StatCrunch because StatCrunch is a web-based, menu-driven Pearson product for computing statistical calculations. And because of its design, students can click a link inside an assignment that'll take them right to StatCrunch and they can work on it from there. I do allow my students to use StatCrunch, although only about 1 or 2 students every 3 or 4 semesters actually use StatCrunch. Allow students to move points by typing coordinates. There's so little graphing in the stats course that doesn't really matter. I do allow my students to see the test summary that shows the test score and question results, but what I do change is right here, not that they can review at any time, but only immediately after submitting. So I warn my students, if they want to review their test, the only time they can do it is right after they submit the test. I allow them to view the feedback that Pearson will give them. I don't use the study plan, so I click off results are used to update study plan. Students to print. Yeah, they definitely do not are not allowed to print the correct answers. And importing if you want to allow other instructors to use it, that's doesn't really matter. It's very rare that people copy individual assignments from me. Then you click save and assign. There it is. If later on after you copy this, you need to actually set the due date, you can click settings for class and you can set the due date and the time, and then you can assign here. Or I would recommend, cancel here, leave. I would actually recommend, once you have your assignments, you use the change date and assign status feature after creating all your assignments, because then you can set the due date and time here, select the assignments that are appropriate. You have filters to use to help you with setting picking those assignments. So you can pick the ones you want, click this, and it only picks the ones that meet the filter, and then you can put in the date, say in time, which that's whatever, and then apply to, oops, I don't have anything selected. You click apply to as selected, because we have something selected, maybe. There we go. Alright, and there we go. I'm going to play done and okay, because I don't really care about the due dates right now. There is one more step that I will put in another video, so that video information will be independent. That information is how to remove those test questions from the study plans so students don't have access to the questions outside of the test. And there you have it.